Folks, a recent exit poll shows that black voters were responsible for the Biden-Harris margin of victory in cities like Philadelphia, Detroit, Atlanta, and Milwaukee. It also shows why we voted and why we didn't. There's clearly a generational divide that Democrats need to bridge to win in Georgia and take back the Senate. Joining me with more key facts on this is Terrance Woodbury. He is the founding partner of Hit Strategies, the polling company responsible for this report. And of course, also my panel is A. Scott Bolden, Monique Presley, and joining us is Robert Patillo with the Rainbow Push Peach Tree Street project there in Georgia. All right, Terrance, let's get right to it. Exactly what is your data showing? We previously had talked about this here, where young voters do not identify as Democrats to the same extent as older voters. How is that? So does that mean, though, that they are listening more and being appealed more by the Republican Party, or are they simply saying, I'm not self-identifying, which means you're going to have to work a lot harder to get me to vote for you?
What's up, Roland? Thanks for having me, and I'm glad to be here with your with a lot of friends on this panel, and even some really good friends on your previous panel. We're doing quite a bit of work with NSAE and with Nakima in Georgia, and have been conducting polls and focus groups on behalf of both of their organizations, both before the runoff and since election day. And what we're seeing is quite clear. One is that black voters are extremely engaged in this election. 91% of black voters say that they care a great deal about who wins this election. That number is consistent even across infrequent black voters and first-time black voters. And Roland, just in case I didn't actually believe some of this data, I had to go sit in focus groups with first-time and infrequent black voters and ask them, wondering if they even knew that there was a runoff. They are engaged. They know that there's a runoff. On a scale of 0 to 10, they are absolutely voting. It is remarkable just how engaged they are. That said, there is a serious gender and generational divide amongst black voters that we really have to lean into and start correcting it first in Georgia in order for both Warnock and Ossoff to win. But as a party, Democrats are going to have to start correcting that divide to be successful in future elections.
And what is that divide? So how do they correct it?
Absolutely, Roland. So, we spend quite a bit of time talking about the gender divide over this election. A lot of folks looking at black men, anticipating what black men would do in this election. We didn't spend quite as much time looking at the generational divide. But what we see is that, amongst black men and amongst younger black voters, they are about 10% less likely, 9% less likely to identify as Democrats. That also made them 9% less likely to support Democrats, less likely to support Biden, but also less likely to support Democrats down ballot. Now, let me tell you why that's so important, Roland. David Perdue got 17% of black men's votes in Georgia. Donald Trump got 19% of black men's votes in Georgia. And so we saw a bump of support for Perdue because when we look back at what David Perdue got amongst black men 6 years ago when he was on the ballot, he got 7% of black men's votes. From 7% to 17% of black men's votes. That is the difference, Roland, of 83,000 votes. I am getting sick and tired of Democrats, of progressives, of politicals in this party telling me that we spend too much time on these marginal differences, on 3 or 4% differences amongst black men. 7% 6 years ago, 17% now. That marginal difference, Roland, it was almost enough to push David Perdue back into the Senate. 83,000 votes. This is not marginal. This is the margin of difference in states that are being decided and lays at their margins.
Very interesting point there. And I want to play this here. Andrew Gillum posted this. This was a podcast. And Terrance, I want to get your thoughts on this. And I'm going to go in the order of Robert, Scott, then Monique on this one. He had a conversation with Bakari Sellers. And this is what Bakari had to say about that, speaking directly to what you're talking about, which is that generational divide, but even among the generational divide, the gender divide. Listen to this.
Well, first of all, black men are treated as invisible by the Democratic Party, period. And that's been an indictment of our party for a long period of time until election season, where we scramble and try to figure out how we can get Charlemagne and Andrew and Bakari to do town halls with black men in barbershops to get them to come out and vote, right? We do that they'll be calling us again in August of 2022, trying to figure out how we're going to beat Marco Rubio in Florida by getting black men to the polls. I mean, you see these like articles that come out about the white women who ran the campaign. That's great. We see the articles about black women being the backbone of the Democratic Party. That's great. All of these things are true. But what you don't see are the articles about the Sterling K. Browns or the Don Cheadles or the John Legends or the Jeffrey Wrights who use their platform to push. You don't see the articles about the Kamau Marshalls or the Vince Evans who worked on the campaign, who helped push this campaign forward, right? You don't see the articles about the Roland Martins or whomever else who utilized their media perch just to make sure that there was a clear frame and vision around what the Biden candidacy would be.
I'll pick up on that, then I'm going to go to Robert, Scott, then Monique.
I think that's exactly right. A part of Donald Trump's appeal to black men and Republicans more broadly is leaning into the cynicism that many black men feel towards Democrats. And this is a quote that I heard from a black man in Florida just in focus groups over this election, who said, my hood didn't get any better under Obama and ain't got no worse under Trump. So tell me what any of these presidents got to do with me. For those closest to the pain, our policies are not reaching them. And the ways in which our policies impact their lives are not being communicated to them. So that allows for Donald Trump to exploit that cynicism, exploit that pain, and create this false equivalency that they're all neglecting you. So at least give me a shot. What do you got to lose? And then the last thing I'll say here is, one thing that Democrats have to lean into is representation in this party. Not only Raphael Warnock, but over the course of this election cycle, the four brothers that we had running for U.S. Senate in the South, that's a story that that black men in Milwaukee needed to hear. That's a story that black men in Philadelphia needed to hear. They need to know that there are people like Hakeem Jeffries and Antonio Delgado, young black brothers taking leadership in this party to push an agenda that fights for people like them. And it's happening in the party. But we got to start spending money, communicating it, targeting these voters, and doing so not 30 days before Election Day, but to start doing it right now and showing them how they're represented.
You're there in Georgia. You heard this conversation, but also the previous one. I talked about what's happening on the ground. Your thoughts about, again, this generational shift where older voters far more likely to identify as Democrats compared to younger African Americans. Robert, you there? Can you hear me?
Yeah. I hear. It's hard to know that was directed my way.
Yep, you're first.
Yeah. Well, part of the issue is that party identification is just simply not as significant now as it was in generations past. What does it mean to be a Republican? What does it mean to be a Democrat? Younger voters are more interested in direct policy positions, bold, exciting, energetic policy positions. It's not enough to simply roll out the brand anymore. Brand names are now fungible. You have to roll out the policy positions that they believe in. And Democrats, in large part, have been kind of lukewarm to embrace much of what Bernie Sanders was campaigning on, much of what Elizabeth Warren was campaigning on, much of what Reverend Jackson campaigned on in 84 and 88. And as long as we still have this myth in the party, this fantasy in the party, that you're going to get those Reagan Democrats back, you're going to get those old truck drivers in the Rust Belt, and they're going to come back to the party. So don't say anything or do anything too scary that might scare them off. You're going to continue to have low turnout among African American men and among millennials and Gen Zers, because simply put, they are only worried about what's going to happen to them, what's going to affect their bottom lines, what's going to deal with student loans, what's going to deal with housing, what's going to deal with jobs in the economy. And just having a brand name is not going to be enough. So until the party is willing to confront the realities of the demographic shift in America, those people wearing MAGA hats are not coming back to the Democratic Party. Give up on them and really campaign and push a bold progressive agenda that addresses the needs of the people who actually turn out for you. That's how you get more young people, and that's how you get more black men interested in voting for the party.
Scott?
Yeah, Roland, I struggle with this because I hear the data, and I do think, as Bakari says, that black men have been invisible to the Democratic Party. They've been invisible to the Republican Party, too. That black female or black women activism and black people, 90% of them voting for the Democratic Party, does not necessarily mean black men. That's 7 to 10% that if you knew Donald Trump, if you were informed as a black man and you voted or did not vote, then you got to be dumb as a doorknob to vote for Donald Trump, if you will. So it's more than messaging. It's getting them interested in the policy and exposing black men clearly as a result of this data, exposing them to and informing them and educating them so that this whole choice or this despondence in regard to their plight in life is not solely controlled by Democrats or Republicans or even an election, but that to have a chance at a better life, to improve their quality of life, that voting and politics matter. I also think that if the DNC isn't highlighting black men who are elected officials, young and older ones, then we certainly need to be doing this, because as a result of the data, that tells us and dictates that we need to be doing more, and not every 2 years or every 4 years, how do we get black men to vote for Democrats? Because those numbers, I bet you, and maybe it's a question for your guest, those numbers, if we don't do anything about it, are only going to increase and expand. And we don't have a third party or African-American political party for those disenfranchised black male voters to go to. And maybe their vote for Donald Trump is a protest vote for their lack of recognition or their lack of economic prosperity or their lack of ability to matriculate in any successful manner in this country.
Terrance, answer what Scott said, then I'm going to Monique.
Yeah, I mean, he's absolutely right. This is an inflection point for Democrats, because the one place I will push back is that black men are also invisible to Republicans, because that's exactly where Donald Trump just changed the playbook on us. I think once we get this final FEC report, we're going to see that Donald Trump spent upwards of $100 million pursuing these voters. And when people are asking me, why are black men considering voting for Donald Trump, or why did black men consider voting for Donald Trump, I tell them the same answer: because he spoke to them. He spent money talking to them every single day in the palms of their hands. He targeted them with people that look like them, talking about things that matter to them. And look, I think half of the stuff he put in the palms of their hands were lies and hyperbole, but it was only effective because it was being listened to in a vacuum.
Monique.
But if that's who's speaking to you and ain't nobody else speaking to you, then you're more likely than less likely to vote for that person or to believe what you're hearing from even Donald Trump. Monique,
the point about in terms of young voters, I mean, look, the reality is this here. As each year progresses, the next generation is the one who you're going to have to be appealing to. And so Democratic Party, they are going to have to get a better handle on how to appeal to young voters. Look, you could try to have as much messages as you can to older voters, and we also know, though, who turns out the most. But at the end of the day, you have to convert people to voters, which means you got to figure out what's going to push their buttons.
Sure. But as I've said before on your show, Roland, and elsewhere, we talk about the Democratic Party and what the Democratic Party should do, some amorphous intangible by way of an organization that is not made up of real people, such as me. I'm a member of the Democratic Party. I understand that there's the DNC and that there's money allocation and there's campaign money, and there are all of these other ways that money can be spent important to communities. But let me just have a public conversation and share what I've already shared with you ad nauseum privately. I agree with Bakari about what he said, but I don't think he finished the thought. Because if you don't have resolution, if you don't have solutions that each person can do, and if you don't call out who needs to do those things, okay, if you feel like you're being ignored by the Democratic Party, well, hello, black men. I'm the only black woman on this call, on this show right now. So you and you and you and you. The responsibility for advocating on behalf of black men to the Democratic Party so that the Democratic Party then devotes the right amount of time, energy, resources into growing and re-educating or educating for the first time black men about why it's important and what the differences are between the parties and how this matters to them. I mean, when Bakari said, sure, there are all these articles being written about black women being the base of the Democratic Party. Well, that didn't happen by accident. That's black woman advocacy. Years worth of united effort to improve our standing and get what we are due. And so if you look at from the civil rights movement forward, where black women were not just the base of the Democratic Party, but the base of the civil rights movement, we're the workers. So if we turn and start working for ourselves, then black men have to decide. And I don't want no hate mail because I love y'all. I'm raising black men. You know, my daddy's a black man. Come on. What I'm saying is, we can't just be the work mules because now we have to work for ourselves and advocate for ourselves. So black men now who are in leadership can't just be visionaries. They can't just be the head of something that women are running. They have to build an infrastructure such that they advocate for themselves, because that's the only way. If articles need to be written about what John Legend did, okay, Scott, write that article. If articles need to be written so that y'all don't get lost during the what we call off election years, which there's no such thing, then where is your essence? You know, is it black enterprise? Where are the gaps going to be filled? Who has the contacts other than Roland Martin, the only black man doing media for black people every single day of the week? And who's going to advocate so that these things get done? Because time out for talking about it. The house is on fire. What are we going to do?
Well, just to kind of answer that, I think part of the issue is that very often the agenda items for African American men do not match up very cleanly with the agenda items for the Democratic Party. And so when it comes to that political science question, first day of political science class, politics is the question of who gets what when. Other groups are often put ahead of that, and we're told to sit back, wait for the next election, be quiet. All you have to do is look at the Loeffler versus Warnock debate from this week, where as an African American man, you can't raise your voice at a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white woman. You cannot yell. You cannot call her a liar. You have to have this almost Jedi-like demeanor whenever you're dealing with political issues. So until we're able to kind of unleash and speak honestly, frankly, in mixed crowds where we're not weighing our political interests against, we have to make sure we get the suburban soccer moms. We have to make sure that we don't scare off the college-educated liberals from the suburbs. Then we can start actually having policy positions. But as long as we're muted and neutered in these conversations, it's very difficult to put forward the positions that you're discussing.
But Terrance, what Monique is saying is, no, see, I got to disagree with you on that one, Robert. I think what Monique is saying, if you are not organized to make those demands, ain't nobody going to do it. And Terrance, I'll be honest with you, that was one, we talked a lot during this election. And I'm going to say specifically for black men and then specifically for young black voters, we're really combining black men and black women in that one. And that is, if you don't self-organize to then make demands on folk, then you're not going to be able to get it. I've been saying the same thing, Terrance, to black media. You can't keep saying we don't get our fair share if you're unwilling to come together as a collective to then go in as a collective by saying, nah, y'all ain't gonna give us 10 cents on the dollar. Y'all gonna give us that whole dollar. Now, we might end up with 50, 60, or 70, but we got that. So the deal is, black men out there, and I put this out there, Terrance, and Scott, you were on this show, and it ain't happened for a lot of different people. Black women have been meeting every single Sunday night. I know a bunch of them. Monique, she on that call. I know a whole bunch of them. Every damn Sunday night. For how long y'all been meeting, Monique? 3 months? 4 months?
4.
4 months.
4 months.
Terrance, I don't know. I do not know. And I would know of a group of black men who are not in a one particular group. I'm talking about black men from different backgrounds all around the country who have a regular weekly call where they are talking policy, where they raising money, where they giving marching orders. And so if we going to address the issue of what's happening with Dems and black men, you can't ask somebody to do something that you are not making a demand, and it can't be singular. It has to be a collective action, Terrance.
No, that's right, Roland. Look, but the truth is, man, I am critical of these gender gaps and these generational gaps, but I'm also very, very supportive of the work that I know brothers have been doing. And I just, Black Greek letter organizations are not going to let you say that black men ain't doing nothing.
No. See, no. You missed what I said. You missed what I said. Follow me here. Listen real clearly.
I'm not on every call, Roland. I don't know what.
No. Follow me here. And so the group that Monique is a part of,
I'm very familiar with black women.
Right, and what I'm saying is that ain't. You can be in a sorority or not. You can be in the boule or not. You can be in the links or not. You can be independent. You can be whatever. What I'm saying is, part of the problem here is that black male groups are operating in silos. They're not operating as a collective to make those demands. So that's what I'm saying.
I just think that's debatable, Roland. I think that's debatable.
Show me the proof.
I think it. Listen. No one doubts the impact that black churches had on these elections. Well, 90% of the pastors of those black churches are men.
No. But those were black churches operating as a collective.
Right. But we just cannot dismiss the contribution that black men are having on democratic politics.
I'm not dismissing, but what I am saying is, if you are going to argue that there has to be a laser-like focus, targeted effort on this constituency, there has to be a group that's making the argument. If you're in the black church, you're making the black church argument. If you're black women, you're making the black women argument. So there has to be a group that's making the specifics, specifically black men, messaging to black men, targeting to black men, dollars to black men.
Absolutely.
It can't be where, I got 5 priorities, and hell, these are the other 4, and I might get to the brothers later. So what Monique is saying is, brothers, organize your ass. Stop talking.
I mean,
full stop.
I do know multiple black grassroots organizations led by black men. Many of Mondale's been on your show. A couple of others have been here to talk to you about the work they're doing. But beyond just and we do have to better organize. But there's 2 points I want to make. One is that we cannot blame the consumer for not buying the product. Right? This is like Democrats are selling Pepsi here. You can't blame your consumer for not going out and better organizing Pepsi into their community. That's not the consumer's job. It is Pepsi's job to get into the community, to understand how to position their product in a community of consumers if they want that consumer to buy their product.
But here's the deal. When Coca-Cola came out with New Coke, what did consumers say? This shit nasty. And they said, we going back to old Coke. And all I'm saying though is, Frederick Douglass has already told us what we got to do. Power concedes nothing without a demand. Never have, never will. You must agitate. I'm only arguing that if you do not do it as a collective, if alphas come to the table, and then kappas come to the table, and then omega, if you come into the table individually, I can pick you off. But when you come in as a collective, and I now got to deal with all y'all, whole different conversation, and that's all I'm saying. Terrance Woodbury, I appreciate it, man. Thank you so very much for joining us. Any new data, be sure to let us know. We'll have you back on.
Absolutely, Roland. Talk to you soon.
All right, then.